I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. That is a quote from no other than Morpheus from The Matrix. And I know y'all are probably like, oh no, here she go. Yes, here I go. But I figured that I would just, start off by using that analogy, The Matrix itself, the movie, I should say, only to help you guys better understand this entire video. Because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of this might not make sense, and that's okay. You can come back to this video whenever you do begin to see these signs, but I feel like you guys will understand at that point why it is that I use that quote. So I'll say it again. I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. So, without further ado, let's get into this video. Oh yeah! What's up, kings and queens? It's your girl Jazz, back with another video. Today we are finally talking about the big thing, and that is spiritual awakenings. The things that I'm going to cover in this video, just a little disclaimer, this can happen at any point in time. These stages are not meant to be followed in any sort of order. It can happen in and out of order. It can happen from 1 to 6. It can happen from 1 to 2 to 5 to 6 to 3 to, it can bounce back. I want you guys to understand completely everything that I'm telling you guys, but I want you guys to apply it in the way that it does apply to you. Don't try to make everything stick, okay? And also don't try to force yourself into any of these stages to make this process go longer. Let me just say this from now. Your spiritual awakening, i.e. your spiritual journey, is going to be for the rest of your life. There is literally no end. And that is not to say that you're doomed. That's just to give you comfort to know that there's no race. There's no, I have to get this done. You don't have to rush. It'll happen when it needs to happen, and it'll happen at the pace that it's supposed to. Before I get into anything, I just wanted to let y'all know that. So everybody, let's take a collective deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, and let's get into this video. I'm pretty sure you guys are watching this and you're like, okay, Jasmine, what is a spiritual awakening, right? A spiritual awakening is basically, using this analogy, waking up from the Matrix. The Matrix being the world that we live in, the society that is run by our corrupt government, and not to get all political, but that is majority of what it is, the American dream that we're all so badly chasing, that need to put all these materialistic things before your own happiness, stuff like that. It can be a number of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, it doesn't necessarily have to be relationships, it doesn't necessarily have to be any of that. Anything that is keeping you blinded from seeing the world of what it actually is considered the Matrix. And so the spiritual awakening is somebody tying a rope to your arm and just yanking you out of it. Now, this might sound a little scary, but just to make it lighthearted and fun, I'm gonna put a meme that I seen of a spiritual awakening, which is literally what it is. I'll put it somewhere on the screen, but it's basically just explaining how it happens. The main two are trauma and it just happening spontaneously. So you can experience a spiritual awakening and start your spiritual journey out of the blue. Let's just start with the less, drama one, which is it happening spontaneously, right? So this means that it can happen at random. It can happen at any point in time in your life. You don't even necessarily have to be going through anything, opposed to the traumatic version. You don't have to be heavily spiritual. You can be a whole atheist, honestly. I know people who don't believe in God at all and have converted over to spirituality. And again, spirituality is not a religion. It is a way of life. I'm gonna say it again. It's not a religion. It's a way of life. But this can also be triggered by, say for example, if you have people around you that are spiritual. So, i.e., if you know me in real life, if you know me, I don't know, through social media, if we have talked before and you're watching this video, I'm not going to take credit for your spiritual journey, but I probably did play a part, because if you know me, you know that that's literally all that I talk about. And so just by being around me or seeing the things that I post or hearing the things that I talk about, if you even have just the smudge of interest, that means that you're about to start your spiritual journey. Honestly, a lot of people in the world right now are very interested in things that have to do with spirituality, but they don't even know that. So once you really make that connection, oh, this has to do with spirituality, boom, it's clipped. You will now fall down into the rabbit hole And there is no person that can take you out of that. It's going to happen continuously, and it won't stop after that. Again, this is not to scare y'all. You guys will be fine. You'll be fine. It's just to say, like, don't think you can just dip your toe in the pool and then step out. Like, literally, this is an ocean. You will drop into it 10 feet deep. Many of us don't even know how to swim. You just gotta learn as you go, basically. The other way that you can start your spiritual journey is through trauma, which unfortunately, this is the most common way, only because of the fact that the emotional charge that you feel when you do go through things that are traumatic can literally push you into a spiritual awakening. So, for example, say a friend or a family member died, or just somebody that you know, or like, say for example, you've recently gone through a heartbreak, or mind you, this doesn't have to be just relationships. This can be platonic, this can be friendships, this can be a family breakup, so on and so forth. Anything that makes you very emotional or has an emotional charge to the point where you're trying to reach out in a way where you want someone to take this pain away, the universe is going to hear you. And that is one of the ways that you will step into that journey. So now that we know what it is and we know what can trigger it, let's get into the actual stages, because I know that this is the juicy part that you guys have been waiting for, right? Again, you don't have to be going through all of these stages at once. You don't have to go through them in order, and you don't have to rush to get to the end. Those are the three main things I want you guys to understand before I start talking about this. So the first step, I like to call it the wake up. We notice a difference in our quality of life, per se. We start seeing synchronicities: 1111, 111, 555, 444, 222, 888, 777, so on and so forth. We're being bombarded by specific animals. Like for me specifically, I've been seeing nothing but butterflies, and it's getting cold outside. I don't even know why I'm still seeing butterflies, but I have taken that as a synchronicity because whenever I see it, something happens. Also had this newfound curiosity, but this curiosity leads to investigation, and you have to find the answers. You're trying to figure out, why am I thinking like this? The questions start coming in like a riptide. Literally, you're asking why, how, when, what is the point? That is the main question. It's literally trying to question and break apart your previous reality into, why is it that that was my reality? Then you have the second stage, which is the bliss stage. Now, this stage can kind of be compared to, I want to say, the childlike stage. So if we're going to use examples, let's use the stages of life, right? You have infancy, you have toddler, child, then you have teenage years, then you have young adult, and then you have adult, right? So the wake up would technically be infancy. You're like a baby. You don't know what is going on. You're trying to figure out, why am I even here? Who put me on this earth? You know, stuff like that. And then the second stage is like the toddler stage, the childlike stage. You're seeing things in life, in your life specifically too, and around you for the first time. It's like you're seeing it through a whole new lens. It's like you're experiencing the same things that you've been seeing every day for the first time ever, and everything looks completely different to you, but in the best way possible. Now, a lot of people go through this stage, and one, they don't even know that they're going through this stage, but they also want to stay in this stage. And that is where the problem comes, because in a journey, you have to go through all the steps in order to officially go through the journey. You know what I mean? You can't really stay stuck in one place, because then you're not really learning. The whole point of your spiritual journey is so that you can continue to learn. In the bliss stage, you're more empathetic, sympathetic to people. You're more loving, you're more caring, you're more nurturing. You're trying to understand where people are coming from, why they like this. You're starting to see that there's more to life than what meets the eye, right? For example, a lot of people have been quitting their jobs during this pandemic, or even before this pandemic. And it's specifically, I feel like, in our generation, like young adults, teenagers, we've been quitting our jobs and pursuing things that make us happy. Like, for example, there's so much more entrepreneurs now. There's barely any 9-to-5 workers. We're either trying to make our own business or already have our own business on our second one. Like, everybody's just trying to make themselves happy, be their own boss, and not work underneath someone else, right? So you can consider that as the bliss stage, which is realizing that there's more to what you've been chasing currently. Again, people usually want to stay in this stage, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, It's the bliss stage. Why wouldn't you want to stay in this stage, right? Everything is literally blissful. But you have to keep going. And I say this because the next stage, not gonna lie, probably one of the toughest stages. So stage 3 is called the dark side, or for instance, the shadow side. I like to call it the shadow side because I feel like the dark side has such a negative connotation, and there's nothing wrong with this stage at all. I feel like this is the most important stage, honestly, because this is where the most change happens in your life, period, not only in your journey. This stage affects literally everything else that comes after and explains everything else that came before. So this is when you are completely stripping yourself of every identity that you have put onto yourself. You're starting to see things that you've forgotten coming back up to the surface, and you're starting to see how they're influencing you. Now, for example, this is the best stage to start doing shadow work. Now, if you guys have watched my previous video on shadow work, then you already know what I'm about to talk about. If you haven't, go watch it. But shadow work is gonna be your best friend in this stage, honestly. I say this because you're going to be going through so much emotions and so much confusion and so much loss. Literally, the main themes of this stage is releasing, letting go, purging, removing, and forgiveness. Those are going to be your 5 themes to get you through this stage, because literally that's all you're going to be doing. You have to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made, and they're going to be hitting you a lot harder than they used to, because now you're understanding why it is that you even made those decisions. For example, if you're doing shadow work during this time, shadow work is mainly for bringing up those subconscious memories or those subconscious mistakes or that subconscious hurt that you kind of stuffed in the back of your brain, but you're seeing how it's affecting your everyday life. So for example, if you grew up with a narcissistic parent, it turned you into a people pleaser, right? You realize now during this stage why it is you are a people pleaser, and it's because of the trauma. So rather than just saying, oh yeah, I'm just a people pleaser, it is what it is, you're saying, I only had people pleasing tendencies because of XYZ. And so it's kind of like that throughout this entire stage. You start to pick at, and not pick as in criticize yourself, but pick out everything that you thought you knew and seeing them in a different light. Now, this stage can be really painful, I'm not gonna lie, because there's gonna be so much emotion, so much confusion, so much anger, all of these emotions that you've literally been bottling up or not even taking the time out to understand completely. And so it's gonna make you feel away. It's gonna make you feel like you don't want to talk to anybody. You might start losing friends. You might start losing family members because you start realizing that certain things are just not for you anymore. And that's okay. You don't necessarily have to cut them off in a negative way, but you just have to realize that now that you are on this journey and the things that you are bringing up with your shadow side or your inner child, you have to remove yourself from certain types of energy. You have to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to be around those types of energy. This does not mean that the people that were surrounding you are terrible people. This just means that you're moving into a different level of your life where they're no longer going to be able to serve you. And when I say serve you, I don't mean as in what you can get from them. It's just that you outgrown them. They can also grow with you, but if they're no longer at the point that you're at, you have to let them go. You have to release them. You have to purge these feelings, and you have to forgive them. And forgive them for not knowing how to understand you at this point. Because there's gonna be people around you during this stage where they don't understand where you're coming from. They might be angry at you for stop talking to them. They might never want to see you again. Mind you, just because you stop talking to these people don't mean that it's forever. It just means for this purpose of your journey, you need to remove yourself from certain things. Not everybody's going to be able to understand that, and that's okay. This can also be compared to the butterfly stage. They put themselves in a cocoon and literally transform themselves into a new version of themselves. And so this stage here is literally you in that cocoon. You're taking your time to formulate what it is that you want to present to yourself and to the world when you come out of this stage. You can literally feel as though you're grieving yourself. You'll literally feel like you're dying. Like, it feels like a part of you is no longer with you. It feels like you're literally shedding a part of you that you've held on for so long. And that's why I compare it to the butterfly, because they're literally shedding themselves into a new, completely different species. This leads to the fourth stage, which is the resting stage. I call it the resting stage. It can be called different stages in other people's videos, but for me, I call this the resting stage because it makes the most sense. So if you know that you have just shed majority of who you thought you were, you're gonna need to rest. This is the time period where you're gonna feel disconnected from everybody. You're gonna feel apathetic. You might even get a little depressed. And listen, you can feel whatever you feel. Just know that that emotion is not who you are. You are only experiencing that emotion. So if you do catch yourself in a depressive state, just know that it's not going to last forever. Know that you will come out of this stage feeling literally rejuvenated. It's like going into hibernation. You've done all this hard work, you've done all the shadow work, you've done all this shedding, forgiving, and purging and removing. You might have been crying for months. Mind you, these stages can last from weeks to months. Some of them might last for days, but then you might come back to it later. But after all of that emotion, you're gonna need to rest. And mind you, this doesn't mean literally. This doesn't mean you're gonna be sleeping every day. It could mean that. Everybody's stages are different. Everybody's experiences are different. Everybody's journeys are different. I have recently been in this stage. I am just now coming out of this stage. So I can tell you guys from experience, you might be sleeping a lot. And that is because your emotional side of you, or I should say your spiritual side of you, your energetic side of you, is literally drained from the shadow side. So you're gonna have to give yourself time to recuperate. You gotta give yourself time to rest, because if you don't, you're gonna end right back up in the last stage. And the whole point of the journey is to keep moving forward, right? Give yourself time to rest. Give yourself time to recuperate. Give yourself time to process. Because if you don't, it'll be for nothing. And then you're going to have to relearn all of the things that you just did all over again. Find comfort in knowing that this stage will not last forever. Literally, you have to be okay and be comfortable in that silence. But this is not to say that you coming out of this stage won't be great. So stage 5 is the coming back to reality stage, as I like to call it. Because now that you have literally locked yourself in your room and reevaluated everything that you've just been through, you're kind of like, you know what, I think I'm ready to come back outside now. I think I'm ready to apply the lessons that I've learned. I think I'm ready to put myself on a different path. I think I'm ready to start fresh, right? Not start over, but start fresh. You're beginning to see why things happened the way they did, why things needed to happen the way they did, why things happened at all, what you learned from them, how you can apply that to the things that you do now, and which is what I was saying earlier, healing is not linear. You might be beginning to map out your next steps for your journey. You might be feeling as though you're growing up. And so this is now the young adult stage, right? You might have that feeling of, I finally know what to do, or I know what I need to do now. As opposed to the bliss stage where it was everything is beautiful, I don't need to do anything, the world is just perfect as it is, right? But again, this is like the young adult stage. It's where you're starting to figure out what you want to do with your life and how you want to do it and why you want to do it. It's not because anybody's telling you to do these things, it's because this is what you are seeing for yourself. This is literally the figuring it out stage. You're coming back to reality and you're like, I know what I need to do. I'm not going to do this anymore because this is not helping me anymore. I'm going to do this instead. I find more passion in this. I find more love in this. I'm happy doing this for myself, and so on and so forth. Now, the last stage, I can't really speak on too much because I haven't completely experienced it. But from what I have researched, and I will leave the links to the pages and the videos that I've watched in order to explain this, it's basically the big finale. I call it the ego death stage. It's not literally you dying, but your ego is dying. So for example, the thing that used to control you before, that matrix mindset from before stage 1, right? It's no longer there. It's no longer controlling you. It no longer has any influence on you because you know what you need to do. You're doing what your soul feels is right, and you're doing what makes you happy. This also can help you to feel more empathy towards people, more understanding, being more nurturing towards your fellow human beings. It can be towards complete strangers. It can be towards people that you know. You might be rekindling friendships that maybe needs your help now in order to grow. You might be realizing the things that you just need to completely cut out of your life. Things that you have been used to doing so much before starting this journey, you might never even look at again or even see it in the same way as you did before. And so that is why it's called the big finale, because all of these lessons that you've been applying are finally paying off. They're finally helping you in the ways that you've wanted that help so badly in those previous stages. Now, with all this being said, I want you guys to know that, again, it doesn't have to necessarily go in order. I specifically have experienced multiple stages at once. I've experienced going back to previous stages after going through so much and then having to start over, or not even start over, I guess, beginning a new stage. It can happen in chunks. It can happen over the course of your life. It can happen in 1 month. And again, this is not to rush to the 6th stage, because I feel like the 6th stage is really just the rest of your life, which is like the point of time where you can't really pinpoint what is going to happen because you're still in these previous stages. So please do not rush to get into that last stage. Just enjoy these stages as they go, because the whole point of your spiritual journey is so that you can learn and so that you can grow, and so that when you do get to that 6th stage, you don't have to keep going back to those previous stages because you already know what to do. I hope that this has helped you. Again, do not try to make anything stick where it doesn't stay, and just remember that you are not alone. If you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. I'm pretty sure there are other spiritual people you can reach out to. There are videos that you can watch. There are YouTubers that talk about these stuff. I will list some people that you guys can watch that have been helping me on my journey that might help you. You guys can also watch me if you want. I don't know if y'all like me or whatever. And just remember, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get through this. I know it's gonna be rough, but that's the whole point of life, right? You cannot learn if you don't experience, because you learn from your experiences. I can only show you the door, but you have to be the one that walks through it. Remember to stay positive, stay peaceful, stay blessed, and I will see you guys in the next video.